So yes, I do work for Ebsta. Yes, I am the CTO. My job is generally breaking things and then blaming it on other people. No, in seriousness, I've been with Ebsta for about 7 years, and we now have a great dev team who are working with me to kind of produce the tools and the productivity stuff that we do with Ebsta. So what are we really talking about today? Well, what I thought we'd do is just go on a little Lego journey through data quality. So generally, everybody thinks about data quality a bit like this in your CRM. It feels a bit like this some days. And why is data quality important? Well, data quality now is beginning to drive marketing, AI models, sales processes. Flow of information now is a primary driver to business decisions. So your reporting, all of those types of things. And the sort of next generation things that you're seeing out of Salesforce are personalization tools, event-driven systems, and a lot of those things depend on data quality. So how many people here are kind of part of data quality teams or work in Salesforce as data quality or have to worry about it? This is where, give us a show of hands. Okay, cool. All right, so what we'd like to think of our data quality in our Salesforce is it looks a bit like this, nice and built perfectly, right? So, and generally most people's are a little bit like this or half built. So what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about today of maybe things that are simple things to do or hard in some cases, but simple things to do that don't cost any money but could help you guys drive a bit more data quality in your Salesforce orgs. So, sharing ownership, dun dun dun. Pretty obvious stuff, right? But I'm going to use Batman. Batman needed Robin. He needs other people in his life, especially in the Lego movies, if you've watched any of them, to make him a better person. So really, one department shouldn't hold data quality. It should be held by the people who actually need it. So the sales, the marketing teams, or even the business managers, right? The accountability of data should be everybody who's using your Salesforce orgs or inside of the business as well. And certainly, if you can doing that really early on saves you a lot of pain further down the line. So while you're doing onboarding processes and bits and pieces, adding to your onboarding process a little bit about data quality and how it drives or helps the company, just to give everybody an end-to-end, really will help you kind of not have the pain a little bit later on where people go, why are we doing this again? Oh, I don't want to do this. We've already started it always this way. So doing it as early as possible when people are coming on board really does help. Focus on what you actually want to report on and nothing else, right? Who cares about data if it doesn't actually drive anything? If it doesn't drive your lead statuses, it doesn't drive your segmentation or anything that you actually need to either deliver, process or reporting. So you don't have to be pitch perfect on all your data, right? You can certainly have a pile of Lego over one side if the house that you're trying to build is just over this side, right? So lots of people get hanged up on, we've got to have everything perfect. Well, actually, not so. Maybe you only need opportunity stages to be good, just to get your sales product pipeline. Or you need potentially your account statuses in terms of whether they're a customer or whether they're just simply a trial user with us. So that's one of the problems that we have internally. So we need to make sure our accounts are up to date for customers. Otherwise, we drive a load of reporting, scoring off those data points. And if they're wrong, we start chasing people who are the owners of those accounts. And people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. That customer left us ages ago. That's not my problem. So like everybody, we have the same problems internally here. I'm sure you guys do as well. So I try and focus the teams, like the sales and marketing teams, to just focus on the bits that we actually count, which actually for us turns out to be about 5 fields. So not everything. So we also occasionally, but I would say we should do a lot more of, build out reporting to check data points where like things like why are we using this data? What data points are we using? So we're using some of the classic app exchange tools that you can find for data quality and bits and pieces that some of you might have tried, but we've also built some custom internal reporting points for just getting data reports out. Like, let's just run a quick check, right? And you know, we were the classic kind of users who did this maybe once every time we needed it, right? If you can drive it on a quarterly basis, it really does help you. Whoa, I'm going too quick. Look after your inputs. So we run Pardot. I don't know, how many other people run Pardot here? Oh, tough crowd for Pardot. So one of the things that we try and do is make our automation on Pardops as sync as best as possible. And you might notice occasionally we don't go and check and make sure that they are good, right? So if you've got automation software and bits and pieces, again, coming back to just having a quarterly check or somebody quarterly check, even if it's operations, is really useful, because if there's only 5 sync errors, that's a good news. But when we did this 7 or 8 months ago, there was a couple of thousand. Yeah, so things like this need to kind of be kept on top of. Someone needs to have the ownership of it. Oh, tick, tick, tick. So looking after your inputs, especially when you're on the edges of what I would call your edges of your inputs. So that will be your web forms, that will be things like where you're going to shows and you're taking in data at that point. If you can automate any of those or make them as simple as possible. For example, we've used Google Forms. So when we do a show, we do a quick Google Forms, and actually, because you can do those in nice structured drop downs, they really work quite well. The other thing that we've learned the hard way is when you do mass imports of data, we always now put on it a marker, right? So we can back it all out if we need to. And that's a thing that we've learned definitely the hard way. So I'd say one of the little tips I would say is literally making sure that you're marking as you're putting stuff in. Validation, process builds, pretty obvious, but they're certainly worth talking about, obviously. Validation rules and process builder really can help you automate some of the fixes that you might need to do. Certainly we did this when we had lots of Pardot issues, right? We set up some process builder side of a process builder to fix some of those data points. And how did we actually get that done? Well, we put a checkbox in and we kind of uploaded and downloaded with data loader. And what that actually did was kick off all the process builders. So it's certainly something some people don't use process builder for that, but certainly a lot of people obviously use validation rules. They're pretty obvious. Now, humans are good at messing up data. We all know that. But machines are so much better at this, right? What's the biggest thing that we've ever screwed up in our data quality? Trigger. So one of the things that I would say, one of the things we always do whenever we're putting process builders in, or even triggers, especially triggers, is we make a backup of our data. I insist it. Because there's nothing worse than having a phone conversation which says all of your phone data is now missing because we wrote a trigger that just happened to run completely for everything. And you're like, okay, we've lost all our phone data. Well, luckily for us, we back up a lot of our data, but at the time, we weren't doing that structurally as we just started. So we lost a bit of phone data for the sales team. And one of the biggest learns, I'd say, is test sandboxes. We talk to customers, they don't always use sandboxes, and we advise always to use sandboxes, especially when you're putting triggers in. They are the biggest pain in the neck when they go wrong. That's probably me most of the time. So I also put some kind of trail mixes together that I've been using to kind of run down data quality and bits and pieces, and the team uses here. So I was going to talk about all the trail modules, but I thought a better thing to do would build you a trail mix, and so I've made that public. So I've put a couple of those together. I will say we have a rule in tech, which is keep things simple, rule number 1. In tech, always. So, and one of the things that we found really effective is just taking data down into Excel and just literally formatting through that way. You know, sometimes the simplest things are actually the most effective, and off we go. And process builder and validation, I've kind of touched a little bit based on that. And we have in the past used data quality analysis builder internally as well, which is a free tool that you can get. It's from, I'm sure some of you already tried this as well, which is from Salesforce dashboards. Now there's obviously lots and lots of third-party tools, but I'm not pitching third-party tools today. So I think I wrote it's got to be free. So this is really the kind of basic simple tools and processes that will really help you just kind of clear up through your data quality. And some of the learns that we learned pretty much the hard way, which is pretty awful in places. So I put the little unicorn in because my little girl was like, if we have to pick things, it's got to have a unicorn in it. So there you go. And that's me, really. I wanted to keep this very short and brief because data quality can be really interesting. But if you want to learn any more about us in terms of what we do from a data-wise and how that works, then you can come visit us on there. And I'll put on the Ebsta HQ the trail mix, so you can just pick it up from there as well. Have you guys got any questions? Go for it.
Salesforce seem to be pushing AI, but to me, AI needs vast amounts of data, which seems to be completely the opposite of Salesforce that charge you an arm and a leg for each part of data. How do you think that's going to work out?
Okay, so the question being, basically Salesforce are pushing AI data, but they also charge quite heavily for storage on Salesforce. Yes. So I don't know if you're anything like us. We're about 110% over in our storage at the moment. And I suppose I saw Salesforce doing, what they're doing at the moment is they're using things like big objects. So one of the things that we're looking at internally, we push data back for customers into Salesforce orgs. And of course, the first thing that customers talk to us about as well, you can see more storage from us. So one of the things that we're really interested in and we're looking at heavily is how big objects go. So for even us, we have something like 1 million big objects to go through. But I suspect what Salesforce are doing is they're going to push that further and further as AI comes through. So they'll be like, if you want to drop data with us, put it into big objects and we'll consume it into the AI models. So I suspect that's where they'll go. I think the base of Salesforce is Oracle systems and bits and pieces, so I would guess they're still going to have storage costs there as well, and that will probably continue for a while. You'd hope that it would get cheaper, but I think I would guess they're going to push big objects first. I was going to let him...
on that.
Yeah, sure.
Just quickly, sorry. With the new releases, your storage size has increased by tenfold.
Okay, cool.
So where I think it was 20 megs per user, it's now 200. 1 gig became 10 gigs.
Awesome. That's good news. That's good news for me as well, because it simplifies a problem I've got with another customer, so that's great. When does that come out?
About 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, awesome.
On the Spring 19.
Awesome. That's great news, thank you. You had a question?
I was going to expand on your validation one. I would also say that you should be really careful about the mandatory fields that you pick.
Yeah.
Because I would personally rather have no data than bad data just to move on from something. So really think about when you pick a mandatory field, do you really want it to be mandatory? And do you accept that some people are going to put crap in there just to be able to save the record? Yeah,
so we've seen previously workflows like that where drop-downs especially, you've got to have a drop-down to close an opportunity. We'll just close it with anything we can think of, and drop-downs is a drop-down. And that's where actually the reporting side, if you're not hot on that reporting side on at least a monthly or a weekly basis, it just comes and kicks you, because you go, oh wow, we've got a load of opportunities that are completely wrong. Oh, who's going to go and fix that? I'm not fixing that. Who's fixing that? I'm not fixing that. Ollie might fix that. Ollie's not fixing that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. Any other questions? Views? Abuse? Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the evening, guys. Thank you.